Dude, I couldn't focus on what you were saying with that thing on your face. I was sick of staring at it.
Between other fighting game franchises, superheroes from the East and West, Seinfeld, or even the Ninja Turtles, Capcom has always been ready for the smoke. Crossing over with another franchise or company is a tall order, so not everything pans out as intended. And that's what this video is about. Here's every cancelled Capcom vs. title that I know of. Some started production, others were nothing more than just a dream. So let's cross the line, subscribe to the channel, and start the video.
That's my. This battle is about to explode.
After the success of Capcom vs. SNK 2, Capcom was ready to go for a third title. The plan for the project was that it was going to be a 3D title, kind of like Street Fighter EX or Rival Schools. Makes sense given the trend of gaming at the time. Speaking of which, the guy who designed Kyosuke was on CVS 2. That's why Kyosuke looked so sick and was on so much of the promo material for that title. It did not save Kyosuke from being total trash in CVS 2, but I digress. CVS 3 never got too far off the ground. When it was being planned, SNK was going through bankruptcy at the time, and Capcom lost interest in fighting games for a long amount of time after the poor reception to Street Fighter EX3 and Third Strike. Yes, I know Third Strike is a classic now, but at the time the game was a total flop until Evo Moment 37 renewed interest in that title. CVS3 only really existed as something Itsuno and a few others within Capcom and SNK wanted to do. SNK did manage to put out SVC Chaos, which was mid, but got a really nice re-release. While CVS3 hasn't materialized yet, Terry and Mai in 6 and Ken and Chun-Li in the City of the Wolves are planting the seeds for a potential third game later down the road. With that said, there was some pre-production done on the original CVS3, and while no art or anything has come to the surface of Capcom vs. SNK 3, whatever work was done on that project led to...
Check it out! Here we go!
Instead of dealing with another company, why not deal with yourself? This was a 3D fighter that featured characters from Capcom's own roster of games. Unlike other titles that will be brought up in this video, there's actually a lot known about Capcom Fighting All-Stars, including its story. A terrorist named Abel threatens to blow Metro City to smithereens. 3 code holders are needed to be defeated to stop the bombs. Those are Dee Dee, Luke, not that one, and Ingrid. Mike Hagar contacts several heroes to help save Metro City. That is the most early 2000s plot to an average action movie starring Steven Seagal that I've ever heard. The roster is the most interesting thing here. Capcom went for some deep cuts on this title. For example, you have Ryu, Chun-Li, Charlie, and Alex for Street Fighter. Then you had Hagar and Poison, Akira and Batsu, Dimitri, Strider Hiryu, and either K-Dash or Kyo Kusanagi from the King of Fighters to join the fray. So before Terry and Mai graced Street Fighter 6, Capcom was toying around with guest characters as far back as 2003. Fighting All-Stars got far enough into development to have a playable demo, and most who played it weren't terribly impressed. Between that mixed reception and the decline of arcades at the time led Capcom to ice the project. In the ashes of Fighting All-Stars, we got Capcom Fighting Jam.
That's it!
We were robbed. It seems like the character choices for Fighting All-Stars influenced later titles like Tatsunoko vs. Capcom, Marvel vs. Capcom 3, and Street Fighter 5. Thankfully, lots of RM videos have been preserved. Capcom does have most of their arcade hits coming to consoles at some point in the future, but I think it would be cool to include a playable build of Fighting All-Stars in one of those collections.
The wheel of fate is turning.
Sammy Corporation. We all know them, right? They have many iconic characters, such as Sega's entire roster of franchises. At the 2003 JAMA Arcade Show, it was announced that Sammy and Capcom would be clashing in a crossover fighter, and that's it. Nothing ever came from this title, and no arts or production materials have come to the surface. A quote from Noritaka Funamizu said that he would have liked to see Vampire Hunter characters in Guilty Gear's art style, which would have been really cool. I think it would have been those two franchises, plus Street Fighter and Rumblefish guys duking it out. It would be cool to see my dude Aron again. I could not find any reason why this title didn't get made, but I think it failed for 2 big reasons. First, Capcom was probably uninterested in a new big-budget fighting game in 2003. As for Sammy, they were in talks to buy Sega around that time, and they did in 2004. Seth Killian said that changes in management at Sammy and Arc Systems must have put that project in the dirt. The closest thing to come from Sammy vs. Capcom was the Arc Sys developed Sengoku Basara X. Yes, this is a real game. Its competitive scene lasted about 4 hours. I do not see this game getting ported anytime soon. It's impressive that, after all this time, the likes of Ryu and Morgan haven't battled Soul or Ragna just yet. Inferno Divider! I just wanted to say that. BlazBlue is a weird series to me because I can't think of another series that just got so big in front of my very eyes and then just faded away with not much fanfare. So if you want a BlazBlue video in the future, let me know down there in the comments.
Get ready for the next battle.
I've talked about this game multiple times and even given this topic its own video, so I'll be really quick. The Namco-developed Tekken Cross Street Fighter was announced alongside the Capcom-developed Street Fighter Cross Tekken in 2010. Cross Tekken launched in 2012 to a middling response and loads of controversy about its DLC practices, as in pay-to-win gems and 12 on-disc DLC characters that were complete. Even the gameplay couldn't save it, thanks to its overly defensive nature that led to frequent timeouts. Despite a huge rebalance in 2013, the damage was done and everybody moved on. Namco's end of the bargain, Tekken Cross Street Fighter, has not seen the light of day, despite Namco producing several fighting games in the meantime. My thoughts are that Tekken has been doing well on its own. The sheer difficulty of finding a balance for a game for Tekken and Street Fighter fans, Street Fighter Cross Tekken's middling reception, and Yoshinori Ono no longer being at Capcom has led to the game being stuck in development hell. Katsuhiro Harada made a lengthy tweet about how Namco works internally. Basically, if you have a big hit, Namco executives try to force you up to management. That's why there hasn't been a new Soul Calibur game since 6. There's no one at Namco willing to helm a new project in that series. And that might be the case with Cross Street Fighter. There's just no one at Namco who is able to get the game made. And after spending some time with Tekken 8, I don't want it anymore. Tekken 8 is in a rough state right now, and my comment section agrees with me. I do feel like a Tekken character will join Street Fighter 6 and vice versa at some point, which would at least wet the whistle. As for Tekken Cross Street Fighter, I don't think we're going to see that game unless Tekken 8 really screws something up, and given how that game is going, that isn't outside the realm of reality. Here's an update. I found the video of Heihachi doing a Shoryuken, uploaded to YouTube from Navril Tataki. That's a name I haven't heard of in years, and he has not uploaded anything in years. Huh. Thanks to the FGC Salt posting group on Facebook for finding this. Unless I find that Nina and Chun-Li video, I hope this is the last time I talk about this title. In another update, according to a Bloomberg article, Namco is looking to reduce their workforce. A lot of the blame is on their mobile games flopping, particularly Blue Protocol, as well as general economic issues, which would explain why Namco is making Tekken 8 look like a free-to-play game that costs a premium to start. Reportedly, several games at Bamco are shelved, including Naruto and One Piece titles, and a Nintendo commissioned game. Man, if that is Kid Icarus, I'm going to activate level 4 Jamie in real life, and not in a fun way. The result is Bamco trying to get rid of staff by pushing them to resign. It's a long story. At least Dragon Ball Sparking Zero did well for them. And if this news is true, then the soul no longer burns and I'm never going to see Taki's glorious bosom again. And Tekken Cross Street Fighter is even less likely to happen unless that's Bamco's break in case of an emergency game. Hopefully this is the last time I have to talk about Tekken Cross Street Fighter on this channel for a while, but knowing me, I'll find a way to bring it back up.
Let's go crazy!
Marvel vs. Capcom 3 is a classic. So much of my college years was spent on that bastard of a title, and unlike most Marvel vs. Capcom players, I actually managed to graduate college on time. There were some threads of a story in Marvel vs. Capcom 3, like all of the heroes coming together to fight Galactus, and there were plans to make MVC more of a franchise with a comic book run and even an animated series. However, Capcom and Marvel could not come to an agreement on either project, and that was that. As great as these games are, there is not a whole lot of character interaction between either side. A comic or cartoon to flesh out the characters has a lot of potential. It's a shame that it never came to pass. At least there was a story mode in Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite.
For retribution.
Not for me. Or for me.
Honestly, we did not need this. In a surprise turn of fate, Marvel did pay tribute to Bendis' art with variants of some of their current series in comic book form. To this day, I don't think anyone has captured the essence of these characters outside of the comics better than Bendis. Other than maybe X-Men 97. Bendis' versions of Venom and Psylocke are so sick. The idea of a Marvel vs. Capcom series in the style of X-Men 97, even if it's just a miniseries, is so salivating. Capcom, Marvel, Disney, please, please, please make it happen.
Let's go crazy!
Capcom and Disney had lofty expectations for Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. They wanted an esports league, which did not happen, and they wanted Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite to clear 2 million units. And it did. A year after launch, according to leaks, there were plans for additional DLC for Infinite had the game met its sales expectations. Those characters included Ant-Man, Star-Lord, Kamala Khan, Apollo Justice, Virgil, Gil, Lady, and Asura. Asura almost made it into Marvel. Sadly, development on Infinite stopped soon after the final DLC launched. So Infinite will always have that unbalanced character select screen. Sorry for all my OCD followers out there. Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite's poor reception put the Capcom vs. series on the back burner until 2024's Marvel vs. Capcom collection released to a rousing success. I speak for everybody when I say that ending Marvel vs. Capcom on Infinite would have been a lousy note to end the series on. The wounds of that title have healed, and the success of the collection has shown that there is support for a true fourth title. In the words of Scott Summers,
Dreams don't die!
Go for broke!
a dream crossover title that featured Sega, Capcom, Namco, and even Nintendo characters in one title. The Project Cross Zone games are pure fan service. Mediocre gameplay, but the love Monolith put into those titles make them worth checking out. Producer Kensuke Tsukanaka said that he would like to do a third game, but the sales of the second game weren't anything to write home about. Plus, Monolith is with Nintendo now, and they have their own line of games to make. Hopefully that includes a port of Xenoblade Chronicles X. So that makes the third game in the series even less likely to happen unless a new studio were to make it. Shame, as Kamiya says that he would like to see Dante and Bayonetta finally meet if a third game gets made. And since I didn't know where to put these at, Ono said that he wanted to do a Nintendo vs. Capcom at some point, and while that might not happen, at least Super Smash Bros. And Project Cross Zone 2 exists. And in a press release, Street Fighter Cross Tekken was called Capcom vs. Namco. Nothing really of note there, as I don't think there was ever plans for that title, but it would be cool if it happened.
It's such a shame.
Sometime after Marvel vs. Capcom 2 launched and Capcom lost the Marvel license, DC Comics approached Capcom about doing a crossover with their roster of characters. Capcom wasn't too interested in the project, as at the time Capcom thought that DC's properties weren't doing too hot outside of Batman. The movies around that time were nothing to write home about, and the cartoons more than likely didn't make too much of a splash in Japan. Even though I would argue the DCAU was putting out bangers that could rival even the best anime Japan was producing at that time, but again, I digress. Another issue that Capcom had was the power level between DC and Capcom characters being far greater than Marvel characters. I think this is just a rumor, as I couldn't find any verified source about a DC vs. Capcom game.
That's a nice argument, Senator. Why don't you back it up with a source?
Source! My source is I made it the fuck up.
DC did eventually find their way into the fighting game realm with the kinda bad but I like it Mortal Kombat vs. DC, and eventually a full fighting game franchise with Injustice, made by NetherRealm Studios. To be blunt, I love DC's characters, but I cannot stand the Injustice games. Hey NetherRealms, it would not kill you to add some color and good animations to your titles. Why couldn't you fools just ape Bruce Timm's art for the title? Yes, I know he's always horny, but that's kind of the charm. Making the gameplay fun would also be a step in the right direction. Who knows, maybe in a different reality, Ryu, Mega Man Volnut, and Dante were clashing with Superman, Constantine, and Hawkgirl. Maybe a Watchmen character got in there too because Alan Moore needs another reason to be pissed at DC and Warner Bros. Also in that different reality, the Nicolas Cage Superman movie released and created the cinematic universe first, and hopefully Z-Mangs in that universe is rich, successful, and is Karina's trophy husband, and I really hope the Anti-Monitor doesn't destroy that universe. Yes, I do know that Justice League Task Force exists, but that game sucks. However, the mullet factor was really good. Also, James Gunn, please, I beg of you, make a good Superman movie. I want at least one good Superman movie in my lifetime, because these two movies, they kinda sucked.
Your name will be inscribed in the pages of fighting history.
Speaking of NetherRealms, here's something that's been on the mind of every 90s fighting game fan. Ed Boon has made multiple attempts to get Mortal Kombat to cross over with Street Fighter. At one point, Midway could have made this a reality, but they went bankrupt. More importantly, Mortal Kombat as a whole has never been popular in Japan. The early games were total flops in Japan compared to other fighting games that the country was making at the time. Add to that Japan being more strict on blood and dismemberment, meaning the later games couldn't get localized, all meant that Mortal Kombat never had a chance in Japan. Plus, Capcom is not exactly cool with Ryu or Chun-Li being beheaded, because if Pigzif has taught me anything, someone is cranking their hog to the idea of Street Fighter females getting horribly mutilated. Ryona and Eroguro, look them up. With NetherRealms and Mortal Kombat being owned by Warner Brothers, until Zaslav needs another yacht, I don't think there's much of a shot for a true Mortal Kombat vs Street Fighter title. That said, Ready Player One and Wreck-It Ralph did have references to both series in their movies. Yes, I know Wreck-It Ralph is a Disney movie, not a Pixar one. That's going to be on my goddamn epitaph. And the 2021 Mortal Kombat movie did release in Japan, so at least there's something to work with. And Nakayama is open to the idea of a Mortal Kombat character joining 6. So there is a sliver of hope that these two legendary franchises can finally meet in a fighting game. It would be nice to play a Mortal Kombat character in a fun fighting game for a change. So there's my look at every cancelled Capcom Versus game explained, and I hope you enjoyed it. I love Capcom, I love Street Fighter, I love the Versus games. These games mean so much to me and so many others, and I'm glad to see these games are coming back very slowly. The seeds are being planted for more games in the Versus series in the future, so I'm very excited to see what Capcom has cooking up in the future, and we'll just have to await those games. But I will say, Capcom, if you are going to make a Marvel vs. Capcom 4, make sure Cersei, Nova, Cyclops, Jamie or Yoon, and Mega Man Volna are in the title, so that'd be really good for me. But leave me some comments. Do you think we're missing anything by these games not coming out? Is there another company you'd like to see Capcom crossover with? Or just anything at all? Let me know down there in the comments. And while you're down there, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell to for notifications on future videos. And feel free to hit me up on the social media like Twitter, Instagram, TikTok at ZMings. My camera battery is going to die, so I need to wrap up the video, and we will see you in the next video. Later, everybody. Take care.